Good evening, you're very welcome to the last daily rundown of the week with me, Fiona Fox. Now this is the show where we look at all of the day's big stories and some of those littler ones as well that you might have thought slipped through the cracks. Tonight we're going to be discussing GCSE results, Star Wars and the ultimate power couple, Farage and Trump. But before we go through all of that, we get on to that, let's introduce our lovely guest who's going to help us make sense of it all. It's the economic academic and Green Party candidate, Miss Wendy Olsen is here.
Hello. And
stand-up comedian, the comedy hobbit himself, Mr. Stephen Armstrong.
Hello.
Thank you, what a fantastic combination.
Yes,
we have
exactly.
with you both.
We're happy.
You're both very welcome. Have you been on the couch together in this capacity?
We have,
yeah.
Yeah, we clicked.
You have, you clicked. No, wait, hang on.
We swiped right.
Did you?
Yes, as guests.
As guests of the Daily Rundown.
Yes.
Are we agreeing on everything? Is this going to be an issue?
We're paid to disagree.
Ah.
Yeah, well, I would say
excellent.
that we're not paid to disagree. In fact, that's our first disagreement.
Lovely. Let's start as we need to go on.
Yes.
Lovely to see you both. And you guys at home, don't forget you can get involved with the show as well. We're as interactive as you can get. Joining the conversation at the Daily Rundown on Twitter. Right, let's go straight into our first story of the evening. This year's GCSE results have shown the biggest ever year-on-year decline, down to the lowest level since 2008. The overall proportion of entries achieving A star to C has declined from 69% to 66.9%. Top A star grades have slipped from 6.6 to 6.5%. This has been blamed on more pupils in England being required to resit English and maths. Michael Turner of the Joint Council for Qualifications said there has been a significant movement in this year's entries which impacts on results. Do you think, is this due to constantly shifting Ofsted requirements? Would that be a question that you'd like answered, or?
There's a lot of changes going on here. One of them is that you're required to stay in school now until the age of 17,
right,
unless you can actually find a job. You have to be there in the school, so there's a lot more of these resits going on. I personally don't take this seriously as a decline.
Do you think it's
how can they combine the resits with the rest of them? You know, it's not the same thing.
Well, so obviously we're talking about larger number, which is going to affect the overall percentage of kids.
Yeah, but they're a year older and they've already done the exams once, so they kind of know what they're coming into.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the resit people want to pass, they want to C. They really want to shift from a D or F into the C and maybe B bracket. But they're not going to be, the people who are even studying for A's, they just want to finish.
Yeah, they just want to get that done, don't they?
Yeah.
Stephen, what do you think about this? Do you remember how you did yourself?
I got an A, 6 B's, 4 C's and an E. And the E was from drama, from theatre studies. And as I said when I was last on this programme, that's because we opened our exam to find out that all of the questions were about plays that we'd not studied. So to be fair, I didn't do a lot of revision for that exam. It could have been plays that we'd studied and I still would have failed it.
That's trying to anticipate what's coming up though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a good thing, is it? And you have teachers who kind of...
That's how they're taught.
Yeah.
I can tell you from raising a son through that system, that is exactly how they're taught.
It's all anticipation,
and he had the same thing, that he hadn't studied script writing, and he'd studied all monologues and different interpretations and styles of play, and then it came and there was this, and he was told to write a script.
Right.
And he hadn't written a script.
Right.
It was awful. So So I have a lot of sympathy with the kids who are doing the resits, and yay to them that have passed.
Yeah,
yay
well, obviously, of course, well done to everybody today.
In their lives now, move on.
Yeah, congratulations to those who passed. I think that for me, when I look back to my education, I look at GCSEs as a test of whether you can learn information that you're taught and repeat it back. A levels are whether you can get information, look at it, analyse it, have an opinion and back that opinion up with some kind of argument. And university is not only a 3-year holiday camp, it's also, well, it's not now because people have to get into a lot of debt, but when I went to university that's what it was. But it was also a test of being able to take on thought and seek out your own kind of viewpoint, seek out academic work and build a body of evidence behind it. So the fact that they've dropped to first of all, it's only a couple of percentage. Which is unless you're really bad at maths, you know that that's not that much. Yeah. And secondly, to the lowest levels since 2008. Oh my goodness! I mean, I passed my GCSEs in 1993, so I didn't have the ability to get an A-star grade. I worried there was something I read in relation to this topic that they were going to replace the awards from A to U with a 1 to 10 grading. Now I think that would be slightly concerning, because you're essentially putting it in a way that sort of some people understand. I think certain children don't. They see A star, A, B, C, D, E, F, U, whatever it is. But if you give them 1 to 10, that would be a little bit harder to yardstick it. I think that as long as your kids are doing the best they can, that was one of the things that my mum, as a good human being and a parent and a teacher,
of course, your mum was a teacher.
If as long as your kids are doing their best. And some kids, some kids are brilliant with maths, and I personally, I just couldn't connect with English until I had a particular English teacher who changed my view on it. Some kids are just not that talented or that gifted vocationally or in a certain area. So exams, for me, it's about whether your child understands and grasps to the best of their ability
what they've been fed.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the way you described it, actually, the GCSE, it points to what really concerns me about it, is that they're supposed to learn facts and learn to do things by rote, and I don't think that's really good for preparing for jobs.
Are you not a fan of a state exam in general, or is it?
Oh no, I like having a national curriculum. I think that's great, but it's more in the way the answers are set, along with the questions. But it shouldn't be that way. If you have a question, say about Shakespeare or about how to write a play about nature, there should be multiple answers that all qualify as good, and you do get that in the A level. That there could be different kinds of paragraphs that satisfied some criteria. I actually think in high school we should be letting people disagree with each other, because we should learn how to disagree respectfully. It'll probably come up again later on today. That we just have to know how to tolerate each other and argue a point without getting offended and without offending the other person. And I know in the schools, I live in Salford, and there's a little bit of aggro and anger, and people get punished for what they've said in class. But it should be more like, well, you've said it in the wrong way, but we respect what you were trying to say, but you must respect what others are trying to say.
And is this, Wendy, can I ask, just in relation to, kind of have this feeling in relation to this specific age group, just GCSE level?
Yeah.
And do you think they're a bit too young to kind of be
they're not too young.
penalised?
No, they're not too young to understand it. If you saw them behaving in the street, in the basketball court, or on the side of the football match, right, how they prepare and talk to each other, they understand it. They'll say to one kid, well, you start after the half because you're not going to last all the games, but we'll make sure you get in. They'll care for that person who's different, and they'll do that. But what they learn at school is just sort of something by rote, just make sure you follow all these rules, and it's not enough of a training.
You don't feel?
I don't think so.
As with this article or with this news today overall, do you both kind of, I feel like you're sort of on similar.
We don't think it's a big drop.
You don't
first
think
of all,
it's a big
I checked the British rankings, right? The UK, which has a diverse system, actually, it's devolved into Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales. There are different systems from England, but it's overall ranked 6th in the whole world. And the only countries that are ahead of it are Southeast Asian countries like South Korea, and they, of course, have a very conformist culture. I found out why they do so well on their own education. Like, they make it so that it's a comparable standard in order to set up these international rankings, and the UK does better than America, better than Canada, better than Finland, Norway.
So we're
doing very well.
Still out there.
Yeah.
So do you think that this is a negative report then? That this,
it's a negative spin on something that's ordinary.
What kind of effect would you be worried about it having then on kids who have got results today? Would you be worried? Would that be something that you'd be bothered about?
They're all out in the street tonight.
I don't think the GCSE students are checking what BBC, what the BBC or ITV or any of the news outlets or media outlets or the papers are doing.
Or the head of Ofsted, he just resigned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just, I think that it's a day where the results are coming out, so they have to make a story. If it was 1% higher, then it would be, our kids are brain boxes and they're all going to be eggheads and all this kind of stuff. They need to do something with the figures. There's been a slight drop. Again, it's the worst since 2008. Everything has to be compared against something else.
I prefer the local journalism, right? When you see how the local papers handle it, it's better. They get pictures of people. Hopefully each area will get pictures of not only the A-star students, but the C students and the ones who've got a range of marks, those who've passed the art, because in the art they do what I think we should be doing, which is a whole range of tasks. And
I feel like you'd like to kind of go in and kind of overhaul the entire system, Wendy. I'd be interested to see what you'd come up with actually. How do you think that these results are, well, rather not these results, this report will affect something that's been in the news quite a lot recently, this proposed academy system? Do you think that we might have some bandwagoning?
It's down to the parents, I think.
Yeah.
So when they go to try and make an academy, they're talking about privatizing the property of the school, taking it out of local authority. So it's really up to the parent governors to build up some resistance to that. That's what we think in Salford. And there has been a lot of resistance. And of course the government came in and said, no, we're going to have a second thought about it. But it is very much up to parents, who are really important for these scores and grades. Now what I'm hearing is that sometimes there are some parents who go into schools aggressively challenging the teachers. So these are parents who defend their kid no matter what. So the kid comes home and complains, and then the parent comes to the school and complains, and that's not a proper relationship.
That's always gone on though, hasn't it?
No,
I remember
right. It has in England, but it doesn't in Southeast Asia.
Right. I remember it'd always be, his mother will be in tomorrow now after they've said that to him. You'd expect to be like, we don't say that to him, the family.
Oh yeah.
That's always gone on.
I once got pulled up by a parent of a child for calling him by his surname. Because he said he has a first name, he's called Christopher, and I was like 11, so I was like, yeah, but we just know him as Conway, and he was like, he has a first name.
It's a rule.
And he was a lovely guy. And I think it was just again, I think that different parents have different rules, but I think you have to respect these kind of things. You have to respect the different viewpoints and the different approaches. But as I says, I mean, my mum's a teacher, and I'm sure she would be able to tell you many, many stories of parents who maybe had a different view of their child's rambunctious behaviour. But yeah, I think it is just about, again, it comes down to why can't we all just get along?
Well,
it's all about being friends.
I think being a little bit like calm. If you're going to walk into school as a parent, you need to be calm.
You need to be calm.
Walk in calmly, ask questions.
That's basically your bottom line on this story as well. We don't need to kind of get too hysterical about this.
Yeah,
for the moment,
just do your best, kids.
Let's be happy for the kids to do
that.
Absolutely.
Yay.
Thank you for that, guys. That's our first story done and dusted. We're going into our first break of the evening. Don't go anywhere because we have lots more news coming up for you on the Daily Rundown. See you soon.